Hi, this is Helen Mitas, and it is my greatest honour today to be interviewing Wendi Friesen. So Wendi Friesen is from Colorado in the United States, and she is an expert in helping people overcome addiction. Now, Wendi is very well known in the States. She has been all over the media, just to name a few things: Men's Health, Fox Friends, the Washington Post. There's so many things. So Wendi's been doing this for a very long time. And so welcome, Wendi, to today's interview.
Cool. Thank you, Helen. I'm really excited. It's fun to be connected all the way around the world.
I know.
One side to the other.
I know. I first met Wendi a couple of years ago at HypnoBiz New York, and I was blown away by her story. And her story is that, you started as a single mother who had no resources, no help from friends, and you started a business that really is a multi-million-dollar business now. And this all started from, from a situation which sounds like it's, a very hard place to be in. So can you tell me about that, about your story?
Yeah, it was horrible. It was two small kids because I had gotten divorced, and we were living in the country, and one of the nights, it was winter, it was cold, the propane tank outside had been shut off because I couldn't pay the propane bill. So our houses were heated with this giant propane bill.
Right.
And it was really, really cold, and I had no money, and I was really scared. So I went out there with a hammer and a pliers and a rock. I don't know what I was thinking, but this big brass lock was put on the tank so that it couldn't be just turned back on. And
Yeah.
I beat on that tank, and I just was so determined to put that heat back on. And I actually broke the lock off of
Wow.
it, which is not something you're supposed to do. But after that moment, I hooked things back up, lit the pilot lights. And after that moment, I was determined to find a way to never, never, never be poor again, which is a very negative affirmation. But that's all I had in me. Mm-hmm. And I was a very new hypnotherapist. I was seeing a few clients here and there, but not doing much business. And I started making some cassette tapes. Yeah. And then I had to duplicate the cassette tapes one at a time, and I sold them. But what happened was that when I decided to find out why it was that I was having this poverty mindset, or why I was staying so entrenched in being poor, that's when everything opened up. And so I did something that you know about very well, which is parts therapy. Yeah. And it's to find the positive intention for a negative behavior or problem. So I asked that part, what do you want? The part that wanted me to be poor or struggle. Yeah. And the part said, I need you to be pitiful. And that hit me like a rock. It was so painful. And I asked that part again, what else do you need? And the part said, I need you to be more pitiful. And that was just like, come on, this isn't me. Wow. But I didn't say that to the part. I said, thank you.
Yeah.
I asked the part, why do you need me to be more pitiful? And it said, because then someone will rescue you. Wow. I had no idea, and at this point, tears were flowing. I had no idea that this agenda was running inside of my mind or my heart or my body. And after that, things began to change. And I did
Could I just ask you just about what you just said, Wendi? Sorry to interrupt you. When you were doing this parts therapy, were you doing it on yourself? Yeah. You're asking yourself. So this is yourself in a space where you were basically doing therapy on yourself.
Yep. Yeah, so I had to find the part where I felt it in my body. It felt like it was in my stomach area. Yeah, and so then I took myself on a future timeline, like I had done for some of my clients, and went into several parts, but went to 1 year in the future. And in that future timeline, I had made $1 million in my business, which there's no way that I had any way to do that at all. And I was signing, autographing books of a book that I wrote, and people loved it. And I saw the faces of all the people I had helped that were so grateful for my work, and then brought that all back to the present time. That's kind of the short version of it. But what happened that was so crazy was in that first year with no money, no helpers, no investments, no loans, no nothing. At the end of that 1 year, my business had done $1,012,000.
Wow.
And I like to wonder how it could have come to that exact amount, because I said 1 million or more in my thing.
Yeah.
You know, that all the people in the world got together to do the math, to place the orders to come to $1 million. But it was amazing. And, you know, the next year I did the same thing, but I doubled it and did like 2,020,000 or something. And the next year, and it was just amazing when you get rid of these negative beliefs and these fears for yourself, or if you know how to do this for your clients, if you're a hypnotherapist, you can do some miraculous work.
Wow, that's incredible. So you've gone from having to basically break down this unit so you can have the heating in your apartment, single mother, to saying to yourself, okay, 12 months into the future, I will earn $1 million, and you earn $1,012,000, and then 12 months after that, you doubled it. So absolutely incredible. So tell me, apart from, you know, that whole switch in mindset, what's one thing that led you to, you said you didn't know how to do it, and it's interesting that you've set the intention, but you didn't know about the how. But can you tell us something about, you know, what was the turning point? What actually made that happen?
Well, I noticed that, I mean, this was 25 years ago, so there wasn't a lot of competition in my field. And my 12-year-old nephew had made me a one-page website because we didn't have tools to build websites. They had to be coded. But I was getting emails about hypnosis. And I mostly got emails from men who wanted help with sexual problems. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Well, there's a need, obviously. So I made a couple of recordings that were still cassette tapes at the time about men having a better sex life, more confidence, and getting over some of their sexual problems. But I think that most women hypnotherapists would probably have shied away from that and said, oh, no, I don't want to help men with that. But the reason that I pushed forward was because I had set such an intention and there was not fear stopping me. So the big turning point was an email from a man that said, I want to hypnotize women for sex. Money is no object. That was it. There's no name, and even the email address was kind of obscure. Now, I think most people would delete that.
Yeah.
So I replied, and I started talking to him, and he's from the Middle East, it turns out, which was a little freaky. And we kept communicating for like 2 or 3 weeks, and he asked me if I would come and do some therapy with him. And I was still a little, but then he told me who he was. And he is a member of a ruling family in a very wealthy oil country in the Middle East. And that's as much as I want to identify him as. He flew me out there, first class, all meals, beautiful hotel, everything was paid for. And what it turned out was that my trust in just taking a little leap of faith took me to a different level. So I worked with him every day for 5 days, and we worked on his depression. We worked on his unworthiness of having love or having him feel he was lovable.
Yeah.
For men, this is such a huge issue. And he just thought, well, I'm not lovable. Women don't want me, so I'm going to have to hypnotize them to get some sex. And what we did was created this amazing self-esteem, had to meet his inner child, and and it was so cool. So on the last day, when we were having dinner, he said, when I saw the palace and the little boy that was 6 years old was sitting on the steps of the palace, was that me? And I said, yeah, that was your inner child. And he said, but I loved him so much. And I said, that's good. And he said, no, we're not allowed to love ourselves. Isn't that interesting? But that really changed my perspective, that there's so much opportunity if you don't lock yourself up in fear or decide, nope, I'm not going to answer that email, or no way I'd go to Europe and, you know, meet myself.
And what you just said is absolutely true. Something like that type of email, I think that most of us would say, oh, no, that's not for me. I'm not going to be helping anybody, hypnotize women for sex. But Of course, clients come to us for one reason, and we help them really deal with the cause, not just what they think they want. We give them what they need as opposed to what they want, and then they end up getting what they want. But what you've highlighted is that you took this leap of faith because there's something in your gut that must have told you that this was right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have done it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done it, and you did it. And from there, I imagine other things grew.
For sure, because I was then much braver. I was feeling really like this success feeling of I can do this more, and I can be confident around people who are really wealthy or powerful or important, or even just with my clients, I can do better work. And, you know, in his email, he said, money is no object, and he was telling the truth.
Yeah, I can imagine, of course.
Oh, boy. Wow, but what an experience that just kind of busted me open to take the chance and, you know, keep doing that. And then I would, in my free time, I would go around to places in my town to try and get somewhere that I could do some workshops, or I'd walk into doctors' offices and say, hey, have you heard of hypnosis for childbirth? I can help your patients. Or I went to a really nice upscale health club and I said, can I come in here and do workshops for hypnosis for golf and tennis and bodybuilding? And the short story is they said, yeah, sure, we'll send out our email newsletter that goes out to 40,000 members. You can do it in all 3 clubs, and you can use our workout room or our aerobics room at no charge, and we won't charge you anything. And I got all the payment, and I got a ton of clients.
Awesome.
Because I took the chances.
And so you're coming to HypnoBiz Australia March 2020, which I'm so thrilled about. And you'll be teaching us about freedom from addiction. And so tell me, what was it about addiction that sort of led you to specialize in this area?
Well, initially, it's definitely my least favorite subject in the world because my oldest son had been going to rehab. He did some drugs like opiates, but mostly like he had a big alcohol problem. So I paid for him to go to rehab. And the first time he went, I was so excited. I just had written a check for $25,000 and this was going to fix him. But what I didn't know was the truth, that we all need to stand up and be as vocal as we can about the truth about the 12-step and AA rehabs. They know they're taking a lot of money from you, and they know they have a success rate of about 5 to 7%. And there's no refunds or anything. So Sean did the first one, didn't fix him, went to another one and another one and another one. And I had written checks for $150,000, and here we are doing the same effing thing over and over, and nothing's changing. So during that time, I would go to some of the family nights or go to some of the guest, group things. And you'll enjoy this. This is what made me passionate about addiction work. There was a man who goes as a speaker, goes to AA rehabs everywhere, and he gets up and speaks. So I was sitting in the back row, and first thing he said was, well, I got to tell you, I've been sober 20 years, and every day I'm still white-knuckling it, just hoping I can make it till midnight. What he did to those people in there, he took away any hope of success. He described how they're going to feel 20 years from now, and every day. I was sitting in the back row going, let me at him. So then he says, remember when they used to have the little bottles of alcohol on the airlines, on the cart in the middle? He said, I could get 10 or 12 of those, and I'd have such a good time, and I'd get so drunk. So now he's glorifying it. That feel good, and making sobriety feel bad. And he went on to continue doing that.
And hard. So being sober, the way he described it was hard, something so hard, wasn't it? It's like it's a hard thing to do, not easy and effortless, but it was hard.
And he is future pacing everybody to feel that way 20 years from now. So another rehab that my son was in, there was a family night, and there was a young girl about 18 years old that was leaving the next day. So we're all in a circle, and the girl's sitting in a chair by herself in the middle, and there's a psychologist who is going to do psychodrama with her. She asked the girl to close her eyes, take some deep breaths, relax your body. Good. And I want you to imagine that you're in your bedroom now at home, and you're in your bedroom and you can feel that you've got to really fight the need for drugs. You got to really fight it because it's really hard. I know. And then she has 4 men get up and stand around the girl, around the chair, and yell like they're the drugs. She says, no, the psychologist says, here's the drugs. They're yelling. They're trying to get you. And the guys are going, rah! And the psychologist continues to traumatize her into putting fear in her bedroom, anchoring the fear of her being in her bedroom as not a safe place. Then she has the guys go outside of the room and bang on the windows. And the psychologist is still saying, you're in your room. You got to fight it. You got to fight it. You can be strong. They're out there trying to get you. Oh my God.
It's exhausting and sounds terrifying.
It is. It's traumatizing.
Yeah.
She set the girl up and she had her in trance. She set her up to be in fear when she gets in her bedroom, be like just frazzled and not able to have any positive emotion about being in her bedroom and having the drugs trying to get her. What the hell? Mm. But anyway, these things made me very passionate about addiction work. And I just started working, years ago, I started working with a few clients who wanted to quit drinking. And I was stunned at the results. The work that you and I do, when you apply that to addiction and you do it well, creating a person's mindset that is like the trigger of thinking about alcohol or smelling alcohol or other people drinking, it triggers you to be healthy and strong and in control. And those 3 things are deeply embedded in the work I do, in their identity and who they are and what they believe. So now there's a client I'm working with right now that I work by phone every day. And she uses my recorded programs, but then we talk every day as well. And it's like day number 5, and she says, Wendi, this is ridiculous. I feel so good. I've failed so many times, and I just couldn't quit. And she says, but I don't even think about it. I went to a party last night. Everybody's drinking. I didn't care. It didn't matter. Yeah. And I have heard this thousands of times now.
Yeah, of course.
You know it's possible.
Can I ask you though, Wendi, because it's so difficult for us therapists when we know how to help people and we can help them overcome their biggest difficulties and their biggest challenges, and then the people that we love the most, the people in our family, we seem almost helpless to help them. So how did you deal with the fact that you knew how powerful the mind was, and yet your son, had this addiction? How did you cope with that?
Oh, it was horrible because Sean knew the work that I was doing, and he knew that I was doing addiction work because of him. And he was very vocal, and he didn't hide anything from me. And he always wanted help, but not from me. You don't get therapy from your mother.
No.
But times I was doing an addiction workshop for hypnotherapists in Newport Beach, and Sean he came in for something because we live nearby where I was doing it. And I said, Sean, would you talk to this group and tell them what it's like to be an addict? Because they think addicts are like bums that are rolling around on the street. And Sean's 6'5", he's a genius, and he's so well spoken. Without any preparation, he talked for 45 minutes. He had them on the edge of their chair, teaching them something they would not know, so they wouldn't be scared of having their clients. Yeah, and then the very unfortunate part is when you're an opiate addict, when you do heroin, even if you're clean for a long time, the thought never leaves your brain if you don't do something, and it's a struggle for your whole life. So a year ago, my son died of an overdose, and it was so hard to say. Whew. Yeah. And he was here with me for 3 weeks, and he had been clean for quite some time, but he was going to go back to Montana, so I took him to the bus station to take a bus up there, and he didn't make it out of Denver. And I think it was just probably one of these, like, one last time or just one more, or I don't know. He was in a place in Denver around the bus stop where he knew that, maybe he could just, but there's so much fentanyl in the heroin, and you don't know what dose you're getting anymore. And the detective talked to me every day for several days after and just said, the problem is getting so bad. It's not people who are intending to lose their life, but the fentanyl in all these opiates is so bad. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but the gift that Sean is giving to everybody is a lot of lives, a lot of families, and a lot of people who have been saved and have their lives back in a positive way that they just can't find anywhere else. And so my passion is training other hypnotherapists to do this work so that they can be confident and strong about being able to do this work. Yeah.
So, dealing with that, Wendi, we spoke earlier before we went on, and you said that, you know, one of the most difficult things, well, if you can say that, is that, you know, when you wake up in the morning, often you think that he's alive, and then it's almost another shock to remember that he's not. So how did you get through this, and how are you getting through this? What kind of things do you say to yourself so that you can get up and do what you have to do during the day and, you know, live the life that you're living? How do you do it?
Well, I think that for me, I chose not to go to any support groups. I didn't want to share in the energy of other parents who lost children because I'm not sure I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it would be productive for me. I created as much of an image of Sean and the good things he did and the gifts that he gave and his brilliance and all that I could, and try to hold that image as the one that I want, which is really hard to do. But here's something I did just, I think about 3 months ago. I wasn't ready to do this until about 3 months ago. I have a process that is a temple of wisdom. That's, if you lose a loved one or you have a relationship that's broken up, you know, you lose husband or wife or child or any kind of like grieving over a relationship that's lost. So, and all of you listening, feel free to use this. I did it to myself, but feel free to use it with your clients. I go down a beautiful path in nature, and then I find this temple that it doesn't look like a temple. This one looked like a round white building with a really beautiful ornate roof. Yeah. And in that temple, I have people put everything that they can remember, every memory, good or bad, and things that represent those memories. And in my case, you know, toys that he had when he was little, the blankets that we both sewed together, and the things he did, school, some of the bad things that happened, and as an adult. And there's all these shelves with all these things that represent the memories. And then in the middle of the room, there was a quartz table that popped up that was beautiful, and I lit a candle on that. Mm-hmm. And then Sean came in there, and he was talking to me, and it was like, while I'm listening, I'm thinking, I'm not making this up. I wouldn't even be able to think of the things he's telling me right now. Wow. Wow. So then you go outside of it and you look in through the windows and you just disassociate a little bit. You're still honoring it. And I tell people, you can go back there anytime. You can go back and have all those memories and just hold everything close. But then you get a little bit farther away. Feels okay. Walk down the path and look back and notice how it feels. And as you're walking down that path, it's easier and better, and you have the powerful memories that are the ones you want to hold. Well, anyway, after I did that, parents who lose a child, they have this pain in their solar plexus. It's just like you got a bowling ball in there. And parents I've talked to, they said that just never goes away. It was gone after I did that.
Wow.
Oh my God, it was the pain gone. And since then, it's been really nice. It's not nice that he died, but it's been really nice to be able to live my life a little better and not have to have the heaviness anymore. So
that's a beautiful process, and it's wonderful that you got some relief from that. It really is. And thank you for sharing so that others could use the same process.
Yeah.
So
if anybody needs help with how that process goes, I could send you the recording of it so you could learn it.
Okay, thank you so much. That'd be great. So if anybody wants to know about that process, just let us know and we'll send you the recording. So tell me, so moving on, you're coming to HypnoBiz Australia, like we said, which we're so excited about to have you come to our shores. You're going to be having a presentation. You'll also be holding a post-conference workshop on freedom from addiction. So tell us about what participants will be receiving from you.
Well, the program that I created, it is a complete program that has all the tools that you need. So starting with the client's workbook. It's a beautiful full-color workbook on every stage of the process. It has them do writing, and there's things that they write before some sessions and after some sessions. And you get all the scripts, and as a therapist, you have a manual that tells you, in this session, this is what you need to focus on, or these are the questions to ask. So it's not just reading a script to them, but it's, and it's, you know, it's doing parts therapy, your future self, your timeline, releasing the past, forgiveness, and so many things that you would never even get a 10th of or a 20th of in rehab. So then the other part of it is the confidence that you need to work with addicts. When I first started working with addicts, I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And it's a kind of a scary thing for therapists, because a lot of them don't have the inside information like I did, you know? So we get them up to speed on all the drugs and all of the effects of it, the physical things of whether your client needs to go through withdrawals, which withdrawals are dangerous, which drugs do this, and how to repair the brain. There's a whole nutritional part of it that is the supplements that are needed to repair the brain so the person can get their dopamine flowing again as fast as possible. So they're getting really a comprehensive program. The marketing that I have includes the flyers and cover letters that would go to rehab centers so you can go do a presentation. We have letters to the doctors so that you can drop off these letters to the doctors, you know, with the thing about who you are, and you don't have to invent them. Whenever I've been at the doctor, that they ask what I do, and I always tell them the addiction work. Like, oh my God, where can I send we don't know where to send people because AA isn't working for them. They really need you. So there's a lot to it. You have a slideshow, a PowerPoint presentation that's already set up that you can do as if it's yours, and just so many tools for marketing.
Fantastic. This sounds incredible, Wendi. It really does. So you're basically giving people everything they need to do in the session, and also to market to people that, you know, to groups and organizations with PowerPoint presentations, and you're basically giving them your intellectual property.
Yeah. Now, the other thing about it is I can't do all this in one day. The training generally takes 3 days, and then we do follow-ups. But I also have the program recorded on video in classes. So once they're done with the first day, they get the basic foundation, and then they will continue with me online to do the rest of it. Because I want people to be experts at it. I don't want them to make stuff up or vary from the program and miss the meat of it.
That's right, because this works. So what you're doing works.
Yeah.
So that's right. It's important to know what your process, what your system is.
I'll tell you, one of the clients that I really love, this was over 15 years ago. He just used my online program, and he said, you know, it's the funniest thing in the timeline when I went into the future, I'm an athlete. I'm like a really good athlete. I'm like that. And he says, but that's crazy because I'm just a fat, drunk slob. Everyone knows I'm just a fat, drunk slob. I drink over a case of beer a day, along with some other alcohol. So he uses my program unassisted, and he quit drinking.
Wow.
And then he goes and becomes an Ironman. He says, and he told me, it says, because I have a vision in my future, I trained for Ironman, which is bicycling, swimming, running a marathon.
It's hardcore.
He went to the Kona Ironman, which is the top one. And he's still doing it. Awesome. And that's his life. So when you give a person something that really has so much impact on who they are and what they love and why life is worth living, they're not going to even think of giving it up for alcohol or for the drugs. But we've got to have something. And the rehab centers, they don't give you anything. In fact, another one that my son went to, he said, Mom, you won't believe this. Several of us were leaving that next week, and the guy told us that in 60 days, only 1 in 12 of you will still be clean and sober.
What a suggestion.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Well, let's go get effed up tomorrow. How about that? Why wait 2 months?
It's just so hard for us hypnotherapists to hear that kind of language. I mean, I hear it in hospitals all the time. I have a sister who has been battling with cancer for a long time, and what the nurses say and what the medical professionals say and the language they use, the suggestions they give, it just,
mind-boggling.
At one point, every time I walked into the room where they had my sister, written on the board in front of her in big letters was the word pain, because they wanted her to know what level of pain she was in. And so I'd go in and rub it off. And there it was again, the word pain. It was incredible. I just couldn't believe it.
God. Oh, my God. Oh, that poor woman. Yeah, there was an incident at the hospital that I was working with a client that she is like 60 years old, and she had been unresponsive for 3 years, and they couldn't find anything wrong with her, and it wasn't a stroke. But I went to her house and worked with her every week for several months. And she everything was clenched up. Her hands were all clenched and her legs, and nothing moved. But after about the third session that I did with her, her eyebrows moved up. And then the next time I came in, she smiled. And then we got her hands to unclench and be all soft. And anyway, so she got an infection. This was a while after I quit working with her. And her daughter called me and said she's in the hospital because they put a breathing tube in, and they said when they take it out, she'll die because she just doesn't have enough in her to know how to breathe. And she was always breathing on her own when I saw her. So I go in there, and I got my face right beside her ear saying, Martha, you know how to breathe because the first thing you did when you came into this world was take this big breath, and you can remember the feeling, can't you? That, it just fills up your lungs. And it's so easy because it's something you know so well. So I'm doing this and saying, when the tube comes out, that feeling of, that big, wonderful breath. A guy walks in. I don't know if he was a nurse or he wasn't the doctor or the nurse or intern. He comes in and he listens to what I'm doing, and he says fairly loudly, he says, that's not going to work. She's going to die when they take the tube out. It's not going to work. Oh, my God. Hard to imagine that our medical community of professionals that are trained to do good work don't understand the language.
Yeah, and how the mind works, which is so paramount.
And she did breathe, by the way. She breathed, and she was fine.
Fantastic. That's a good story. That's a great story. So can you tell us just one more thing, before we close up, about, what you want to achieve here in Australia and why you're coming?
Yeah, well, I haven't been to Australia, and it's just been a dream to come there. And one of the things that as hypnotherapists that we get when we do these conferences is the amount of information and generosity from all the other hypnotherapists, and we learn at the speed of light. Even if we're already really good, everybody is so generous. If you want to become a hypnotherapist, I suppose they could come to the conference and find out what it's like. I don't know what the requirements are. But if you're looking for a profession that is just absolutely full of really awesome people, that's one of the things I love about it. But the other thing is getting my work into Australia and then being able to go and do more workshops in more areas of Australia and getting people trained. That is my biggest cause, is getting people to open their eyes, be able to speak the truth, because the things that I teach you that are the facts about AA and 12-step and rehab, to be able to be confident and vocal about it and tell, one of my radio ads I used to run for many years, it was like all this national advertising, but it was for the alcohol program. And I said, if you are struggling with alcohol and the only time you really feel like you have to drink is right after an AA meeting, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
I will tell you why it's not your fault. We'd get so many phone calls from people saying, how did you know? That's the only time I struggle, is when I'm going home from a meeting. And then I stop and get alcohol, because everything they're doing is hypnosis that makes you want to drink and hate yourself. Feel bad and listen to sad stories. Anyway.
Absolutely. So Wendi, I really like to thank you for being honest with us today and to sharing something that's really difficult, which is the passing of your son only 12 months ago. So I'm really, I feel very grateful that you chose to, talk about that. I can't even pretend to imagine what that's like. So thank you so much for being open and really speaking, because you know that it has such a greater purpose to serve. You know, if somebody out there, it's not even about attending HypnoBiz Australia, if somebody out there, you know, has contact with someone or is themselves addicted, like you said, your son was intelligent, he was well spoken, and this happened to him, and his mother is an addiction expert who has helped thousands of people around the world. And so, you know, we're all in this together.
So it's the heroin is just, it has such a hold on people once they do it. It is the best thing you'll ever feel. And I tell people the reason for that, like, if, you know, doing this, having this nice interaction, we might get 100 units of dopamine in our brain, make us feel pretty good doing this. If we get an award or we get applauded, we get about 125 units of dopamine. If we get a hug from someone who cares about us, maybe 150. An orgasm is 200 units of dopamine. So think about how much that is. When you do heroin, you get 1,000 units of dopamine just like that.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's hard to fathom that you could feel that good. But you never forget, if you do it once even, you never forget how good it felt. So now your brain has used up all the dopamine. The dopamine receptors are burned out. Now you can't feel happy because you've burned out your dopamine receptors until you do heroin and get it externally shot in your body. So nothing's happy. You look at a little puppy and you're like, whatever. And that's really the problem. But yeah, so I just wanted to kind of throw that in about why it's got such a hold on people.
And that is, you know, an important explanation, so that we can have some point of reference as to why this is happening and why people make those choices. And conversely, how, you know, we are then as hypnotherapists, what we need to do to help that process, which is what you're doing when you come into Australia. So we're so grateful for that.
Yeah, so sign up for the conference, everybody, so that we can get together and work out this and have a lot of fun, meet cool people, and learn a lot. And it's such a great experience. And I know you and Selena are working really hard on this. And Selena's conferences that she's put together are just growing and growing and getting even more valuable. It's awesome.
Thank you so much, Wendy. Thanks for today. Thank you.
Great to see you, Helen. Can't wait to meet you again.
Yes, absolutely. Very soon. Thank you. Thanks, Wendy.
All right. Have a great day.